Chris Wallace. Chris.
Well, I have great respect for our decision desk, and I did see that they're very happy in Chicago, but I've got to tell you, the Romney camp has real doubts about the call that's been made by us and I guess other networks about Ohio. They do not believe that Ohio is in the Obama camp. I just got an email from a top Romney person. I said, do you agree with our call? He said, not really. It is less than 20,000 votes now, with 20% of the vote still out in GOP areas. Karl was just on the phone with somebody else, and you got some more recent figures.
Here it is. The secretary of the networks, our network called on the basis of about 74% of the vote being in. The Secretary of State website has 77.49% of the vote in, and it shows 2,229,686 votes for President Obama, with 49.19% of the vote, and for Governor Romney, 228,695, a 911 vote difference, 49.17. And
you say it's a 900 vote? Obama is leading 900 votes?
When it was at 74%, it was 20-some-odd thousand votes. Now, with 77% of the vote in, it is 991. One of the reasons why is one of the biggest blocks of votes out in the state are the Republican suburbs inside Hamilton County, and as they've started to come in, they've narrowed that margin dramatically. Like the Speaker pro tem of the House, his district had 3% of the vote in until very recent. Now it's started to come in.
I'm going to ask you a straight-out question. You went through this in 2000. You almost went through it in 2004. Do you believe that Ohio has been settled?
No, I don't. And look, if we are calling this on the basis of 74% of the vote being in, and when 77% is in, Secretary of State website, I got the director of the Ohio campaign for Romney on the other end of the line, refreshing the page every few seconds, and this went from being, when we started this conversation 3 or 4 minutes ago, 1,995 vote margin for President Obama, to just now 999.
And the outstanding 20% of the vote, where is that?
Well, we know that some of it is in Cuyahoga County, which is going to be Democrat, but we've got half of Hamilton County out. We had the city of Cincinnati vote. We now saw, we are starting to see the suburbs start coming in. Then we have we have big swatches of Butler County, Delaware County, and Warren County, all of which are Republican counties that have big chunks of their vote out.
So you're not saying that Obama isn't going to win, but you're just saying he hasn't won it yet.
I think this is premature. We got a quarter of the vote. Now remember, here's the thing about Ohio. A third of the vote or more is cast early. That is won overwhelmingly by the Democrats. It's counted first, and then you count the election day. And the question is, by the time you finish counting election day, does it overcome that early advantage that the Democrats have built up in early voting, particularly in Cuyahoga County?
Now, Joe, we know that Karl has a rooting interest. I think he's at this point he's just telling us the facts. But you don't have a rooting interest for Mitt Romney. What do you think?
Look, when I had my last contact with the Obama folks, they thought that Florida was their best shot, that Virginia looked the shakiest, and that Ohio they thought they were going to win, but were less sure of. And so, but when you look at these counties, you look at Hamilton County, Obama's been winning it. There's still a lot out there. So I understand what Karl's saying, but if you look at some of these counties that are still left out there, there are votes, a lot of votes left for Obama that could outnumber some of these suburban counties that
not have.
Well, but if the decision desk has looked at those and is looking at key precincts in those counties and projecting, that's what they do. And they may, we haven't been able to go in and do that yet.
Karl?
Apparently, the website is now being crashed because they can no longer refresh it. But look, I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but we got to be careful about calling things when we have like 991 votes separating the two candidates and a quarter of the vote yet to count. Even if they have made it on the basis of select precincts, I'd be very cautious about intruding into this process.
Well, folks.
Thanks.
So maybe not so fast.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. It's great to have you guys here.
That's awkward.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get someone from the decision desk, and we're going to bring them in here. And we're going to have them on air, and we're going to interview them about this decision.
Well, I think we should sit them next to Karl Rove and interview both of them. Let them interview each other.
Michael Barone, I think, is going to come in here. Maybe Chris Stirewall. We'll see who's going to come talk to us. But in the meantime, let's talk to Carl Cameron, who is in Boston with the Romney campaign. Karl, the info from there.
Well, first of all, no one has left the hall here. People are milling about, in fact, still coming in. No word on Mitt Romney making any kind of a concession speech. In fact, Romney aides are frantically crunching numbers. And let's talk a little bit about Ohio's recount rules. There's an automatic recount if it's 1/4 of 1%. Not in that range right now. It wouldn't qualify where things are. But when Mitt Romney leads in the popular vote, there is still 1/4 of the vote in Ohio out, and this is called, there is reason for Republicans to be somewhat frustrated. The Romney campaign has been downbeat in the last hour or so, concerned about their ability to run the table and catch up. Obviously, that Mr. Obama is now over the top with this Ohio call, but the Republican campaign isn't accepting this call yet. They recognize that it's close and it may hold, but until such time as they see the rest of the vote in, particularly from the rural areas of Ohio, where Mr. Romney's been popular, they will stand pat. We will see no candidate giving a speech here until more of the vote in Ohio is in. Brett?
Carl, how many people have you talked to tonight about this race, and how many, I know you've talked to 1 million of them, so they're looking at Florida, they're looking at Virginia, and they just don't believe Ohio.
No, and they recognize that they all year long, the polls have very closely been within the margin. Only a couple of times did President Obama get outside the margin. There were a few points early in the year where the president was up 7 points or so. After the first debate, Mitt Romney was up about 7%, but the rest of the time it's been within the margin of error. So it shouldn't be a surprise that the quintessential bellwether battleground state of Ohio would be close. And we've been saying for weeks that it might not be resolved in this calendar day. It might spill into Wednesday, perhaps even further. So the rush to 270, they think, has been accelerated too much. And again, there has been some cautionary sort of downbeat attitude visible and expressed by some of the senior Romney staff during the course of the evening. But absent the Ohio call that they dispute, there is still a thin path for him to get there were he to run the remaining table. That also assumes that Romney can win in Florida, could pick up Nevada and Colorado. Not easy, but there you have it. The Romney campaign, no plans to come down. To give you an example of their hesitancy, we've been told several times today that there would be a family picture, an opportunity for us to get pictures of the Romneys in their seclusion, watching the returns, relaxing, crossing their fingers, knocking on wood, and hoping. That has been consistently delayed as we wait. And the Romney campaign wants a little bit more waiting tonight, Brett.
Okay, Carl. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Karl Rove said that we should figure out what the deal is with this decision desk. The decision desk is in a different place, and I showed you earlier in the show in the 6 o'clock hour what it takes to get there. Megan, I will escort you down the steps here so you can go interview them.
All right.
Watch your step.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't want to fall
There you go.
in front of all these millions of people.
Okay.
All
Megan
right.
is going to go to the decision desk and interview them about the decision on Ohio.
Try to get to the bottom of this. It's right out the door. They used to keep them right here with us in the studio, and then for some reason, whoa, careful. Then for some reason, they moved them down the hall. We were too close. We were thinking this wouldn't be necessary, but as it turns out. So you can see this is sort of all the folks behind the scenes who have been watching the program from back here. Hi guys. Arthur Idala decided to join. They're way down the hall. So we'll do a little interrogation and see if they stand by their call, notwithstanding the doubts that Karl Rove has attempted to place.